What's up guys, and welcome to another video of the channel that will make you a chess master. Now in today's video we're going to be teaching you what a real chess game would look like. Now I won't actually be playing a chess game, I'm going to do that probably next vid. But in this video we're going to be simulating what a game would look like. And enough yapping, and let's get straight to it. So we're gonna be simulating both the white pieces and the black pieces. So we're gonna be simulating both of these colors, and let's get straight to it. So white plays a normal move e4. Now the reason you should play either this pawn at the beginning is because they open up the line for the bishops and the queen. For example, e4 opens up the line for the queen like this and the bishop, and while controlling the center. And controlling the center is very important because controlling the center will allow you to control all the board, because if you just control this, if you put a knight here for example, the knight is controlling so many squares, and that's really important. You need to control as many squares as possible to put as much pressure as possible, and that's why we played e4. Black responds with e5, the same idea. We played knight f3, developing a piece while attacking the pawn. And you have to always develop minor pieces, which are the knights and bishops. They're called minor pieces because they don't control as many squares as other pieces like queens and rooks. And the queens and rooks are called major pieces. So you have to always develop the knights and bishops first, and we prefer to develop knights first, because bishops already control a lot of squares from their starting position, unlike the knight who only controls 3 squares, which isn't a lot compared to the bishop, which controls just so much. So I play knight f3, developing a developing a piece. What's a poon? Developing a piece while attacking the pawn. So black plays knight c6, developing a piece, not a pawn, while defending a pawn. So you see, it's kind of like everybody wants to develop while achieving something. So white plays bishop c4, developing a piece. Black plays knight f6, developing a piece while attacking the pawn. d3. Now the reason we played d3 is to open the line for this bishop to escape in the future, and also to defend this pawn. So d3 has 2 potentials. You should always strive, like after every move you play, you should always strive for like as many like goals as possible. Like d3 has like 2 goals. The knight development over here had 2 goals. So you have to strive for as many goals as possible. And black develops the bishop on c5. We develop the knight, and black castles. The reason he castles is because before castling, like over here, the king was kind of open and more vulnerable for attacks. But when the king castles, the king is kind of safe behind this wall of pawns, so it's going to be really hard attacking the king. And also, it kind of activates the rook, like gets the rook closer to the middle a bit more. So that's why we castle. And white decides to develop the bishop. And just putting pressure on the knight, you have to always try to put pressure on the opponent's pieces, because the more pressure you put, the more likely your opponent will make a mistake. So you play bishop g5, putting pressure on the knight. And then black decides to play d6 so he could free his bishop from the dungeon of pawns. See, the bishop is in a cage, and if the bishop is in a cage, the rook is also in the cage, stuck behind the bishop. So we free the bishop from the dungeon, and And next move, you're gonna develop it. So white castles, the same idea as black, protecting the king, and also letting the rook get closer to the center and possibly be more active. Black plays bishop g4, finally freeing the bishop, and white decides to do a little trap for black. White plays knight d5, putting pressure on the knight, and if the knight takes the knight on d5, we could take the queen, and we do not want to lose the queen in the first 3 moves. So this is kind of a trap, so don't take it. And black sees that this is a nice trap, so he's like, okay, maybe white would fall for it, so he plays knight d4. Again, you should always have multiple reasons for your moves, or at least one reason. Like, if you don't have multiple reasons, have one reason and make sure it's worth it. And always put pressure on your opponent. Like here, if the queen moves away, for example, over here, the black could take, and then take, which is a fork attacking 2 pieces. This is called a fork because 1 piece is attacking 2 pieces. In fact, even 3. So it's a check while attacking the queen, and if the king moves, which is the king has to move, we'll take the queen, and that's a free queen. And the same for black. If black moves his queen, we'll do the same kind of like tactic. So you should always put pressure and like try to make your opponent make mistakes. And white didn't like the knight being here, so white tried to kick it out. So played c3, kicking the knight out. So in this position, black traded pawns, kind of destroying the wall. So before it was a perfect wall, now it's kind of like off. There's like this file over here that's kind of opened. And the black bishop, escaped while attacking the rook. Again, as many threats as possible, put as much pressure as possible. So white just moved the rook aside. And black did the same thing. He pushed the pawn, and we took, and played here. And attacking the rook. So black played rook e8. And the thing in chess that you shouldn't always copycat your opponent. Like in this position, black just kept copycatting white the entire game, and even white started copycatting black. So as you see, it's the complete exact position, like the exact position, like it's insane. But if you keep doing that, at the end, white will win because white has an extra move, and that's what happened. White has played b4 and pushing the bishop away, and then white started taking the center. White played d4, taking the center. Black took, which is a mistake. You shouldn't take in such a position, because if we take, we have something called a pawn island. Now this is a pawn island, since these pawns are separated from all other pawns. And if we didn't take, well then this giant thing would be called a pawn island, and you have to try to make your pawn islands as big as possible so they can all kind of defend each other and no weaknesses happen. But that's what black didn't do that and created this small pawn island, while white has a pawn island of 1, 2, 3, 4, and black only has a 2. So you shouldn't do pawn islands. And black decided to play f5, attacking the pawn, and since the pawn is already defended like that, white didn't worry about it. White just pushed this pawn, trying to push it again and attack the bishop. So what did black do? Black just took and retook, and in this position, white's queen is very free. It could move a lot of places. Like before, when this pawn was here, it was kind of like blocked by all the pawns. But once this pawn is gone, the queen is completely free to roam. And it did roam, because when black played d5, white took the pawn, black took, and white played, he took the rook on e8. So you see here there was a rook, and he took it with check. And the queen had to take, and then what piece can the white capture? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think about it. If you said white could capture the d5 pawn, well then you're correct, because previously, in the previous position, when the queen was here, this was a position when the queen was here, it was defending. But since he took, and we took, now it's no longer defending the pawn, since it took the rook. So now not only did we take a pawn over here, but we're also attacking this, and black defended it with the rook. And here the queen started its attack. The white queen played queen f3, attacking the bishop and also attacking the pawn. And the black bishop retreated, and white here took the pawn, and black played a move. Black took the pawn. Now the taking the pawn is really important, not just because if it's a pawn, but because white in the previous move, when it took that pawn, it missed something big. And I'm gonna put the previous position where white missed something, and let you think about it. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Okay, so the thing is, what white missed was a literal checkmate, which is insane. White could have played queen g3 check, black moves aside, and then you play queen g7. Checkmate, easy. But white missed that. Instead, just got greedy and took the pawn. And there's like a saying, I don't know by who, but like there's a saying, whenever you see a good move, look for a better one. And black took the pawn. The reason black took the pawn is that first thing is attacking the rook, and if the rook moves, the black moves, for example, here. If we play the same idea, we can't play here now because of the bishop, but we could play here. Black moves aside. We can't play queen g7 anymore because the bishop could just stake us. So we can't do that. And now you just ruined a full checkmate. You should always look for the best move in the position. Not like, especially if you have like a lot of time to think, you should always look for the best move that would improve your position and that has multiple goals and is always putting pressure. That's not what white did, and that's why white didn't win the game. And white realized that this pawn was hanging. You should always look for hanging pieces, and just decided to push it, saving the pawn. So what did black do? Black kind of started like kind of developing the queen, and white kind of want to make the queen go back, so played the bishop d5. And why is this move not a mistake? Because if you play bishop d5, yes, you do hang a bishop, and you should always look for hanging pieces. But why is it alright to hang a bishop in this position? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds again. And it has something to do with forks. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. Okay, if you said queen f7 is the reason, well then you are correct. the reason it's good is because black has to move and then you take the bishop. So what's happened is that white attacked the king and the bishop in one move, so black had to retreat and we took the bishop. Easy. That's why it's not a mistake. In fact, you won a pawn using it. So there was a pawn here and you took it, and you also took a bishop with it. So that's an extra pawn. And black had enough of white always taking his pieces and always having a better position. So what did black do to kind of create an attack? It's not a full attack, but it is an attack. What did black do? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Black played queen f7, check. Now white has to move aside, and well, black just wanted a draw. So what black thought of is that if black just keeps checking the king, like here for example, just keeps checking in a way that the king can't escape anywhere, well then it would be a draw, because they just keep doing checks until it's a draw, because of threefold repetition, which basically is if the same position repeats 3 times, it's a draw. So black just checked, but he didn't see that the bishop could cover. Black thought that the white king has to move here and then he would check. The black king has to retreat and check, but instead he didn't think of CP or BMW. Yeah, let's go with BMW, which is basically is block, move, and whack. And what that is block, move, and whack is basically you should block the attacking piece, or you should move aside like that, or you could whack the attacking piece. And I saved this for only the people who are actually paying attention. This queen is hanging. You could take it. You should always look for attacking pieces and hanging pieces. So for the people who did see this, write down in the comments. I'll leave a love. I'll leave a heart on it. It's just a free queen. An easy queen. And once you're up a piece, or a queen, or any piece, you have to just try to keep trading the bishop. Try to trade the rook for the rook, the pawns for the pawns, because at the end you'll end up with the black pieces. The black will end up with the 0 pieces, and the white will end up with a full queen. And that's very easy because the black has no pieces to fight back. So white just kept using the mentality of trade pieces. So black took the pawn, like it was a free pawn, and white played bishop e6, trying to put the rook over here. And black, blindly just tried to get as many pawns as possible. And white went here, check, and check, just trying to keep checking the king. Oh yeah, another thing else than trading pieces, you should always try to create an attack, because you have more pieces than your opponent, so you have more attacking pieces than defending ones. And there's a rule which is called the +2 rule, which is basically you have to have at least 2 more attacking pieces than the opponent has defending pieces. And white here played queen h4, which is just a complete waste of the bishop, because this position, white's defending the bishop, and here just sacks the bishop. But black thought, if black didn't think, okay, take the bishop, and he immediately automatically autopilot just took it. He thought, okay, if I saw a good move, I should look for a better one. And he thought of BMW. Block, move, and whack. And oh yeah, sorry Mercedes and Audi and all you stupid car companies, you have nothing to do with chess. It's completely BMW. Block, move, and whack. because BMW just whacks you in the face every time it makes a new car. And let's get back into the video, because this isn't a video about cars, it's a video about chess. Black always thought about BMW, and what he saw is that he could whack the queen and he got back his queen. So now we're in an end game, and a fair end game. White has 2 pawns, bishop, rook, and black has 2 pawns, bishop, rook. And the bishops are opposite colored, and obviously here white just retreated with the bishop because it was attacked by the king. So in endgames, what you should do is you should gobble up as many pawns as possible, because if you do that, you'll have something called a passed pawn, which is a pawn that there's nothing in front of it, and there are no pawns that could capture it. For example, this pawn, it could keep moving here, 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 and there isn't a single pawn that could capture it. Like this pawn can't capture it because it's over here. If it was here, well then it can, but since it's here, it can't. So you have to try to get as many passed pawns and try to get as many pawns in general. And in endgames, the king is an offensive piece, since before you used to always think, okay, maybe the opponent could checkmate me, so I shouldn't make my king go on offense. But here, there aren't enough pieces to checkmate you. There are only just a rook and a bishop that could actually create a threat. So what did White do? White used the strategy of just trying to take pawns, so he threatened this pawn. Always do as much pressure as possible, and black played bishop d4, defending that pawn. White played in this position bishop c2, putting pressure on that pawn, which is a mistake because black could simply push the pawn. So now not only are you not only is black already gonna push the pawn, but you're kind of encouraging him, like saying, dude, I'm attacking the pawn, move aside. And black did move aside happily. So that's a big mistake. You have to attack pieces for a reason. Now in the beginner level, you shouldn't really think like that a lot, because most beginners make mistakes. But once you get better and better, like to intermediate and advanced, every attack should have a reason and not just some random attack. So keep that in mind. So black pushed, getting the pawn closer to the finish line where he gets better job, and the job is the queen, probably. And because the queen is the best piece, obviously. So what did White do? White needed to develop the king, because the king has to be in offense in the end game, and also try to stop the pawn. So white played king g2, trying to push the king and possibly take this pawn. Black played rook f4, attacking the pawn. White just moved the pawn, so it's no longer being attacked by the bishop and the rook. It's only being attacked by the rook. And black pushed the pawn. White played bishop e4, and the reason is played bishop e4 because the only way to get rid of the bishop is by taking, and you won't sacrifice a rook for a bishop. That's just strong. So, and also defending the pawn. Like if the king moved, you could take, but now if the king moved, you can't take because there's a bishop. And black wanted to kind of make his king more active, so he moved forward. White wanted to put pressure on this pawn, so he played that. And in this position, black played bishop g7, because he was like, okay, this is 100% a draw. I can't do anything. This pawn is stopped. This pawn is stopped. And he kind of sort of gave up. But why is that a mistake? Because you should always look for the best move, and in this position, white could take the pawn. White is coming back to the game, baby. Black needed to save the bishop, so he played bishop d4 again. So always remember, never get frustrated in the middle of a chess game, because that will 100% make you do mistakes, and never get bored. So white just counterattacked the bishop, and the bishop and black still feeling bored and tilted and even more angry, which is a big mistake that most people do, is that once they get rid of a piece, they become really angry and start just throwing pieces, and that's what black did. Black played here, which is a bad move because white could play a fork, double attack with one piece, and black had to retreat, not to here, because that's covered to here. And white just took. And this position, black did something called resigning, which is when the opponent is completely lost, because in this position this is just a free queen, and also like it's just, he has a full bishop, a pawn, an extra pawn and everything, and this black rook is kind of trapped. And also the video is taking too long. You probably got bored at this point, and we're gonna make another video analyzing such endgames and how to beat them. And yeah, hopefully you had a wonderful day. You have a wonderful day, and hopefully you really liked this video. And if you did, well, then press the like button because you liked it. And also subscribe so you could get more informative videos like this about chess. So have a wonderful day and peace.